Here in Paris, the OECD is hosting an international anti-corruption conference. The French Ministry of Justice organized the conference with the support of the World Bank and the United Kingdom. The three-day conference unites worldwide authorities responsible for investigating and prosecuting corruption. To tell us more about it is Nicola Bonucci, Director of Legal Affairs at the OECD.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. So, what specifically is the conference trying to accomplish?
Well, you may remember that more or less 1 month ago, there was a big summit in London called by PM Cameron at the level of leaders. This conference is as important, but in a completely different context. It is a conference of practitioners, law enforcement authorities, people who are handling corruption cases. And it focused very much on practical problems and practical responses that those participants can find together.
Okay, so what countries are being represented? I mean, are some of the biggest corruption culprits actually here?
There are around 60 countries represented, not really all the OECD countries, but a number of countries which are not OECD members, also African countries, Asian countries. I don't know who the culprit that you're mentioning are, but one of the specificity of transnational corruption, international corruption, is that no country is totally free out.
So because it is international, it seeps in from one country to another. Borders don't stop corruption.
Correct. So corruption doesn't know the borders, whereas the legal system of each country knows the border. And this is one of the problems. So what we are trying to find is practical, as I said, practical solution to problems like cooperation, like legal enforcement of awards abroad, like recovery of assets, issues that always involve one investigation, naturally, how it is easy or not to investigate a crime which has been effectively committed abroad. All those questions are discussed now in Paris.
So how could you coordinate, for example, law enforcement in one country, one Anglophone country, with the country that doesn't speak English? I mean, are there any ways that you can concretely coordinate law enforcement cross-border?
Well, it is a day-to-day business, and there are a number of things which are maybe not very sexy, but which could be a real advance. Just let me give you an example. We have an OECD anti-bribery convention. There is a United Nations Convention Against Corruption. There are other conventions, regional conventions. They all provide for mutual legal assistance, okay? And we all, in each of our conventions, ask the countries to designate a central authority. The central authorities of the OECD Anti-Bribery Convention are not the same than the United Nations Convention. So just to have the single authority for all the Anti-Bribery Convention as one single authority per country, that will help.
So you really have concrete measures that you're trying to put in place. In a three-day conference, that's a lot to get accomplished.
We hope so.
So are there any measures that are particularly challenging? What's the biggest challenge to?
Well, one of the biggest challenge is exchange of information. Very often, not only transnational, but also within the country. Very often, information which is very useful is in the hands of the tax administration, but the tax administration cannot exchange it even with its own law enforcement authorities. So information on tax evasion, which could even lead to an anti-corruption case, is not easy to exchange even within the country.
And anti-corruption cases are abundant at this particular time, as we see with the Panama Papers, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Et cetera. Thank you very much for your insight. So Nicola Bonucci, Legal Affairs, Director of Legal Affairs at the OECD. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.